This Deep Stuff podcast. How's it going, buddy?
That's going well, James. How are you, man?
It's good, man. It's good to catch up with you. It's been kind of a wild month for you, so it's good to be in the midst of a chat and kind of debriefing this massive life, this journey that you just went through in the Mammoth 200. I figured, first off to the audience, I know this is a Short Trail podcast, but this is a special presentation of the Short Trail podcast to talk to you about your journey, especially given the fact that you've been on the pod before. Pick up where we left off and get this rolling and learn about more about you and what you just did.
Yeah,
How you
man.
feeling, man?
Dude, feeling pretty good actually. I think we're a little over 2 weeks removed from the race, and the legs are kind of coming back. I ran yesterday, day before, and I thought it was like, oh, 2 weeks is enough, but woke up the next morning and legs are just extremely fatigued. Just like, all right, well, need a little bit more time. I'm gonna get on the bike and do some spinning because not ready yet.
Oh man, you look good though, dude. How was I didn't get we could talk about this as much as you want, but like how was this past weekend? You got to pay or no, not pace. I'm sorry. You got to hang out with and crew your brother at Kodiak. How was that experience?
Oh, dude, we had a blast, man. It was kind of funny going into the race. He was, giving me his strategy, and it's like, we knew Chad Hall was going to be there, Eli was going to be there, and both those boys were going to take it out hot. Eli coming in sick to the race was kind of a question mark, and go to the first crew station to meet Michelino, and here he is, 30 seconds behind Chad, and I was like, all right, so we're not following our race plan. This is good. And, because his plan was to kind of sit back and, just kind of kick at the end. But um, I think by the halfway point, Chad had like gapped him up no summit by about 13 minutes. And then as the race unfolded, Chad ended up dropping. Eli dropped before that aid station, and then Mike ended up in eighth. And at that point, he was in second or third. But yeah, that race, some random dude, no disrespect to him,
Shout out to random dude.
right up, freaking came out, ran his first 100K, and just paced the race really, really well, and ended up winning while these freaking, quote unquote professionals come out there and absolutely blow up. But it was really fun, man. It's always good to be out there with my brother, help him out. Had him, the dogs, and my girlfriend helping, and it was a good time, man. Really enjoyed it.
What did you think about the race in general? Like, was it put on super well? Because I know it's been a few years now, and I like that they've been putting this race on. And on top of that, I know it's this year was the first year it was, I guess, a North American major. Was it any different from like I know you've kind of been to canyons before. You've seen what that's all about. Like, what was the I don't know, what was the kind of aftermath? What did you think of the race itself?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna be a dick probably here and say I can be. The finish lines are cool. They do a good job with that, and like like kind of like the little vendor village thing they put on. Um, the aid stations always just kind of seem a little bit lacking, but it was fine. I mean, everybody was seeming to have a good time. But as far as like how it compares to when Kodiak was previously, owned by another entity, I don't know. It's a UTMB race, but I mean, I think they had like 2,200 people out there. So
Oh wow, okay.
that was a lot of people. Dude, Big Bear was an absolute zoo. So, other than that, it was fun. It was enjoyable.
I don't know if you picked up on this, but I know I did. Is it just me, or was there a lot more Euros? I feel like at this race, at least like elite Euro men and women at this race more than I'd seen in previous years. I don't know. Or at least maybe I just never paid attention. But like even more than like Speed Goat and like other races, you would expect more of a European vibe to be at. I feel like I guess because this was the North American major that they showed up. Like the French guy got second at what the 100K, and then I think there was just like a good assortment of like Spanish and French athletes as well.
Yeah, no, when we were at the finish line, I mean, they were calling out a bunch of different countries, like so and so representing, Great Britain, so and so representing France. And it was actually, yeah, it seemed like there's quite a lot of international athletes out there. And like you said, yeah, French guy got second, which I gave Michelino shit for. It's like, dude, you can't,
Yeah,
the French guy you can lose to is Jim Walmsley.
this is
So
true. This is true. Yeah, yeah. At least, yeah. I don't know. We gotta, I gotta text Mike. I almost sent him the message about the Chad Kroeger / Nicolas Cage, like with the long hair. Like he does bear a striking resemblance to Nicolas Cage from Con Air, like with the long hair. It's kind of crazy.
It's so funny. Well, because go look at his UTMB profile.
Right, right.
See what place he came into, a certain aid station, and I was like, oh man, he needs to update this freaking picture, man.
He does, dude. I almost texted him like, dude, like I gotta, because obviously, I'm throughout the day Saturday, I'm like refreshing, the screen to keep checking like where he's at and what he's doing, and Nicolas Cage is staring back at me. So this is, yeah, I think he would take that as a compliment. So.
Hey, Nicolas Cage and Con Air versus Nicolas Cage and was it The Whale? Probably a better.
It's probably a better fit. Yeah, yeah.
better-
All right, dude. Let's talk about you, man. I've been really excited to have this conversation for a while since you finished. Like, I think this was a beautiful opportunity to kind of recap your race and talk about your experience. Because I don't know, it's your first time running 200 miles. Yeah, obviously it was like a serious journey for you. You finished in, ninth place in 66 hours, 41 minutes, 17 seconds. And this race, by the way, like they kind of coined it as like a 200-mile race, but I didn't realize it was 214 miles. I thought that was just like people taking like wrong turns and shit, but it ended up 214 miles with 31,000 feet of elevation gain. What's your initial reaction after finishing? Like, is this something you'd ever do again?
It's funny. I finished that race and I told myself, yeah, there's absolutely no way I'm running 200 miles again. Never mind Mammoth. I mean, I felt like Mammoth, in the aftermath, I was like, man, there's way too many fire roads. Like it just and I think I was so beat up from the race that, I needed some time to process it a little bit. And I believe that, yeah, probably do it again. I think right now, because I have Sedona 125 coming up in May. And theoretically, if I win that, it gets a free entry to Cocodona. So I figure, all right, well, if I get a entry to Cocodona, I'm going to have to go run it. Um, and I think more so because after the race, it was knowing that if I had taken care of my feet a little bit better, my legs had more or less the 200 miles in them to run them a little bit faster. So naturally it's like, all right, well, if you did 66 hours and you're, all fucked up, let's go and see if we could do it a little quicker. So I think that, just the competitive side of me definitely wants to go back out there and do it again, just to show that I can, get in that 50-hour range, 48, 50-hour range. I think is entirely possible. With how the legs were feeling, but the feet were fucking macerated and bruised. So, yeah, probably do it again. I don't know if I'll do Mammoth. I've had a few people, that I ran with that are like, hey, are we doing it again next year? And maybe. I mean, I think that Tim and Hillary put on a really, really, really great race. There's some issues with the course marking, but I think that's kind of to be expected. In a 200-mile course. But some of the intersections were poorly marked. I remember, I don't know, it was probably 25, 30-mile mark. I'm running down the hill and coming to a left turn, and I see Rachel Enterkin coming down the hill from another trail. And she's like, don't come down here. Don't come here. Don't come up here. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, how far'd you run? She's like, a fucking mile. So yeah, some of us got a little bit more than 214 miles. I don't know if it was a GPS thing, but I think my watch ended up showing like 220 by the end of it, from like random aid station wandering and then just like wandering through bushes trying to find where the trail was supposed to be. But yeah, to answer the question, short answer is yeah. I mean, I think I'll probably do it again, but it really kind of depends as to when on what happens in Sedona. So
Interesting. Now, if you were to do very well at the Sedona race, I mean, you've got a great track record there, winning Mingus in 2024. Yeah, is it 2024 or was it 2025? It was 2025. Wow, dude,
yeah.
time goes by quick, man. After winning Mingus, you got a good track record there. Would it be? It would obviously be Cocodona for the following year, so 2027.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Interesting. Okay. All right. All right. So I got to get to the burning question. This one might take up a lot of time, but this is the one I feel like we got to really chat about. Is you signed up for this race as Teddy Tonelli, your podcast host slash like alter ego slash like the man. Um, we're doing this podcast as Frank Sunseri. Why? Let's talk about that dichotomy of like why you signed up for the race as Teddy Tonelli, what you wanted to, and talk about like kind of the background as well with Max, and why we're doing the podcast today as Frank Sunseri.
Yeah, it's funny. So we entered the race as Teddy, and it all started as a total joke. Um, started in one podcast episode, just kind of clowning Max a little bit about the King of Moab, and the guest that I had on was like, is like, oh well, Mammoth is in your backyard. You should basically go to Mammoth and just make sure that Max can't claim King of Mammoth too. And for some reason in my stupid ass brain, I was like, this is a great idea. And just kind of ran with it, and had multiple episodes, just shitting on Max, and in all honestly, and it was all in good fun. Max is a really good dude. Gotten to know him over the past few months leading up to the race, and the whole idea was to really go into the race and run it as Teddy Tonelli. And as I got closer, and really it was kind of like a race day decision, was I just realized like the monumental nature of this race, and realized like, look, I need to put all my energy into just simply finishing this thing, because it's 200 freaking miles. And I think that, people will say like, you got to go and disrespect the distance, and kind of like how Jimmy Elam did and absolutely crushed it. But I think that was a totally different disrespect for the race, the distance in general. To be able to think that I could go out there and both put on a decent performance and then also do that in character. And funny enough, I had talked to a few people who said, like, oh, here comes Teddy. And when they heard my voice, they were like, wait a second, like, what's going on here? Like, that's not Teddy's voice. And we're slightly disappointed by that. And they had given me the advice. They said, well, next time just do it. When you go into an aid station, you can kind of turn it on a little bit. And I think I probably could have, mostly because when I get into an aid station, I do like to be pleasant and, kind to all the volunteers, and, joke around and everything like that. So I think it was totally doable. But, you know, I think really once I got to the start line, the competitive side of me turned on, I mean, just like it kind of probably does for a lot of us. And, it was fucking go time, man. It was like, all right, let's do this. There's a bunch of damn good runners out here, and, I want to try and go out and run with them. So, I just ran it as myself instead of, as the podcast persona. So, I think that the, it turned into kind of an interesting thing, because I would say probably at about mile, I don't know, between mile 100 and mile 114, I started second guessing why I was doing this, and I had realized that I didn't have like a why for this race. I went into it as a joke, and now the fucking joke is on me. I'm sitting here, my feet are absolutely destroyed. Mentally, I'm checked out. And, I just wanted to be done. I was like, you know what, fuck this. I don't want to be here anymore. This isn't fun. Like I didn't have a reason to be out there. I wasn't doing what I originally planned. Things weren't going well. So I think in that moment, when I was running with my pacer, and, um, he's like, well, why don't you just kind of reframe that? Why don't you find your why now? You're here. And what that kind of turned into was having those guys with me, quite honestly, was having the crew with me, having them take up their time, their entire damn weekend, shifting schedules. I mean, my buddy Jonah, he's a barber, and he changed his Friday schedule, Saturday schedule, Sunday schedule, and he works primarily on the weekend. So he had to shift a ton of appointments around just to be out there last minute, because he knew that it was just me and Adam out there. And he told me, he's like, I can't let him do this alone. So he came out there and, just knowing that those guys showed up, they were there, they took their time. I couldn't bitch out at mile 114 and just, call it quits then. They came out, and once we did that, we started having a lot of fun and started running better. And, you know, that's kind of how it morphed, and I'm glad it did. We had an absolutely amazing time that second half of the race. I mean, the first 100 miles we ran it in just under 24 hours. We were, more or less right on pace, and I'd say maybe an hour behind. But it's like, okay, hey, we still got time to do this. And so the second half of it, although was excruciatingly more painful than the first half, was a lot more fun.
How did you reconcile it in your brain? Like, did you ever have like a point where I don't know, because like you got to remember, like my brain is weird. I think in terms of running really hard up a mountain and then running really hard down, and it's like it's over in an hour, right? It's just like a lot of pain and feeling terrible, but it's done pretty quickly. For you, it's a excruciatingly longer time out there and a longer set of pain, just a different type of pain. At what point in time, like, did you ever cross your mind, like, holy shit, I have 100 more miles or 114 miles left to go after you already did 100 miles? Like, did that mess with you mentally at all?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I was sitting there there was, I think it was a Taylor Canyon aid station, and was just kind of sitting there, and that was going to be my first nap. So took about an hour nap, and thank God I did, because once I took that hour nap, I woke up and I did feel better. But still, it was like, man, I remember getting up to the top of Crater Mountain, which I think is like mile 130, 128, something like that, and looking over towards June Mountain and just thinking, fuck, I have to get to the other side of that and then up Mammoth again and then back down. Like, and it just seemed so daunting. I mean, I knew at that point that we were gonna finish, but still, like, just the way that just the way that my feet were feeling, thinking that I had to go that many more miles, and looking at my watch and still showing over 100 miles to go, was just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is so stupid, dude. Like, why are you out here?
Let's I want to backtrack a little bit because I do want to get the play by play more so, because the first day you looked, I mean, not that you didn't, you looked amazing the whole time, buddy, but like the first day you were on the podium, you were running with all the podium guys, like you were all over the live stream. I would, dude, there was cheers going on. It was really fun to follow, and it seems like once you hit that 100-mile mark, things just like completely, I don't want to say imploded, but things started going south. Was it 100% like what did you do to your feet that like make them start to hurt so bad?
Yeah, so the feet go, so it all kind of started happening, right after, a little bit before and after Convict Lake. I started getting some hot spots in the feet, and instead of taking the time and just dealing with it and just relubing them, taking a minute, and just simply changing my socks, I just figured, you know what, fuck it, I can get to mile 50 and then I'll deal with my feet. By that point, they were already rubbed raw, to where, like, I had to throw a bunch of KT tape down on the bottom of the feet just to try to prevent that skin from, continuing to rub down through the calluses. Because basically what happened is, like, on the balls of my feet, those calluses essentially just like rubbed through. There was like two little like marks on each foot, same spot. And uh so I would say probably at like that mile 35 ish mark, the feet started feeling a little funky. And, at that time, it wasn't bad. Like, it didn't hurt, but I felt it. And if I had addressed it then, um, probably would have been a whole different story. Now, again, you don't really know that because it's still 200 miles, I mean, I could have been running faster and then my legs could have took a shit. But, um, the first day my legs felt good. I mean, even from Crowley to Green Church, feet were, not awful yet, but they were getting worse and worse and worse. And then basically from Green Church to Taylor is when they just went south. Because even when I got to Green Church, I don't believe I changed my socks. Because I changed my socks at mile 50 at Crowley Lake, but I didn't for that last like 40. So changed the socks, but my feet were still dirty. And I didn't address the bottoms of them anymore. Didn't relube them again. So it was just really neglecting the feet and running through that first night. It was really super sandy terrain and really rocky fire roads. And yeah, dude, they just got beat the hell up through that section. So when I got to the mile 98 Taylor Canyon, um, they were they were absolutely fucked at that point. We were trying everything we could, like putting these like I don't know, like these little like support pads underneath them just to try to take pressure off of the ball of the foot. And um, we eventually got it right and taped them up right, and got them lubed and everything. And we were being more diligent about socks and foot washing. Uh, so once that happened, it was more tolerable. But yeah, dude, it started. I would say the feet started. It started earlier, like quite honestly, earlier than I expected because even going back to Mingus, right? That was a fairly wet race. I mean, like the first part of it was all through the mud and everything, and I didn't have a single foot issue for that whole 80 miles. And I changed my socks once, didn't even wash my feet. But it's just that sand.
That's what I was going to ask you is if because we talked about this like way ahead of time. There was a lot of apprehension, not just with yourself, but other athletes, that a good amount of that course is very sandy. So it's like, how do you keep that sand out of the shoe? And that's a difficult dance to do.
Oh, dude, yeah, that was it, and that was I think that if going back to that race or anybody running it, I mean, just don't take it lightly because it was seemingly it wasn't a problem until it was a freaking problem. And you're running through, I mean, after the first 30 miles, that's pretty much what you're getting is just like decomposed granite and sand, and it's not fun.
Yeah. Interesting. Dude, I gotta talk to you too about like the mental part. I want to keep exploring that because I just find it so interesting. So, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to 200 milers, but like originally before like this race went on and I see other 200-mile races, like let's just say from the short trail courses, like it's just a different thing. Like not that it gets disrespected. It's just like I don't view that in the same way I view like a really hard VK or a mountain classic or never did before. But in that sense, it's just a different sport in its entirety. And I think there's got to be a lot of respect given to the athletes that do it just because like there's so much more exploration of the mental side of it as well as the physical side, but it's just different. I think that's the best way I can describe it. How have you changed mentally after this race? Like, has it given you more armor to be able to deal with really difficult things? Has it given you more confidence? Like, has it left you with anything after the race that you feel like just a new sense of confidence? Because I just did that, like a massive thing.
Yeah, well, and to touch on the difference between, like, say, to lead into that is, the difference between short trail and long trail is one thing that I realized that even between 100 miler in this, the strategic approach is so much different. The race dynamic is so much different because it's less of a how's my fitness going into this? How fast can I run this, 50K, so on and so forth. It's you have to account for sleep. You have to account for, again, foot care. You have to account for your nutrition, even more so than any of those other races, because your stomach goes south, things go wrong. And the sleep was a big one. I think going into it, I don't think I would have done 2 hours how I did. I think I would done like little naps going into it. So I think strategically approaching these races, I think what Jimmy showed us was that you can run a 200 miler fairly quickly. I mean, he approached this as running 200 milers, and he did. Obviously the first 100 being faster than the second, but really still going out there and showing that the sport is changing. It's going from more of that mental side and just being a war of attrition to, we're
Influence.
serious athletes come in there and be able to run these things. So to the mental side of it, I think it is a huge component. People always talk about ultra runners being able to process and suffer and things like that. I don't think it's a different type of suffering, right? Like you said, with short trail, the mental part of that is like, okay, I know this is going to be over in X amount of time. It's a different pain. For the 200 miler, it's just constant. It's just always there. And especially with the feet, I mean, you're striking the ground every fucking step. I mean, it's right. So it's like, and then downhills and then the terrain. It's, let's put it this way. When ultra runners come out and they say, "Oh, I love to suffer," like it's kind of funny to me because it's like I don't know how much I don't know how much the suffering's different, I guess, but excuse me. The I thought when I ran Cruel Jewel that was the most painful experience of my life. After this race, I realized that wasn't fucking shit, dude. This was horrific. Like, you know, coming down off that summit for the last time, my feet hurt so bad that I knew I couldn't walk the rest of the way because it was just gonna hurt. It was gonna hurt just as much, you know. Um, and I could have took it a little bit easier, but I wanted to go home. I wanted my guys to go home. I just wanted to be done. So we more or less ran most of the downhill, albeit slowly. I'm talking like 12, 14 minute pace downhill. So I mean it's a little bit of, it's just a trot, but it got to the point where the pain was so bad, like I was on the verge of puking. Like it was bad, dude. And um I think I put it in my race report, but there was legit a moment where I was talking to God and I was just saying, please just carry me for a little bit. Just take this pain away for a little bit. And, I think thankfully that prayer was answered. And, there was a moment where I was going down the hill and I was watching my foot strikes, but the pain wasn't as bad. So I kept trying to like stay in that moment. But it was fleeting. The pain would come back and it was excruciating. And like, at that point, my legs were pretty hammered. My left quad was wrecked. And, it was at that point, it was just like, all right, just try not to eat shit, try not to fall down and make this worse. And I think getting out of that race, you know, it's super cliche at this point, but, being able to sit there and say, damn, I did that. Like, all right, I can handle a whole lot more than I originally thought, from a pain standpoint, because yeah, no, easily the most excruciating experience of my life by far. So,
It's crazy that people choose to do these things. I don't know. It's like why? I don't get it. Like it's funny. I don't know, dude. Like the whole like sleep deprivation thing, the whole like running in the dark thing. I could never understand it. Like that's for people way harder than I am. Like I like to be in my own bed. I like to be, like I said, after an hour, it's over. I can go on a joy run. I can enjoy myself. I can relax. Like you're out there for, dude, 66 hours. That's a lot of days, man.
it was, dude, it was all, I mean, the running at night wasn't bad. Like I actually enjoyed the nighttime running quite a bit. And really, like, after the first 24 hours, after I got that little hour nap, the sleep wasn't too terrible. Now, going from like the Sawmill aid station to Taylor, I ended up catching up with a runner, and we ran through most of that night together. And I remember him being up ahead of me, and we're playing the alphabet game, which basically, like, you say A, and then you say like aardvark, and then I repeat that B, beaver, and then you try to go through the whole alphabet. And I remember sitting there and, like, I don't know, like I'm on G or something, and I wake up and I'm like, holy shit, like how long have I been walking and like sleeping, I fell asleep like two or three times in that section. And I didn't plan on going to bed there. I kind of wanted to wait until like 9 a.m. the next morning. But I just, at that point, like, dude, I'm sleeping on my feet. Like I had to go to bed. But after that first night, the sleep deprivation wasn't really a thing. I mean, the days kind of blur together and like the sun goes down, it comes up, you don't know where the fuck you are. And, at that point I was just kind of sleeping to, reset the legs, reset the mind, and there was never really a point of exhaustion after that, other than like, the physical exhaustion. But the sleep deprivation surprisingly wasn't as big of an issue as I thought it was going to be. And running at night was actually fairly enjoyable. So,
Can you talk about friends made along the way, like with fellow competitors? Like, obviously, you're there for a really long time. You're not moving at a pace that's going to be non-conducive for talking. So, I feel like there's a lot of good like conversations that could be had in this. Like, talk about some of the friends you made along the way and just the camaraderie built and how that went.
yeah, no, actually, I did meet one dude. His name's Jameson. Can't be found on any social media, so I had to go find his business on Instagram because he had finished like 12 hours or so after me, or maybe 8, I'm not sure. And I wasn't staying at the finish line or going to awards. Like I was like, fuck this, I'm going to my hotel room. But I had met him coming out of Crowley. I had caught up to him, and we were kind of chit chatting for a minute, and then he's like, hey, do you want to run through the night together? And I was like, yeah, sure, it'd be good to have company. And it ended up being an awesome dude. He did like adventure racing and all that. So we were shooting the shit for that entire night, just running together. When we got out of Green Church, he actually left about 5 minutes before me, and he comes over to our van, and he was like, hey buddy, you ready to go? And I was like, oh man, just give me a minute. I'll catch up to you. And it took me the entire freaking climb to catch up to him. I just see his headlamp up ahead, and I was running my ass off to go catch up to him, and finally caught him. And then we finished out to Taylor together. He got out of Taylor again before me. But then his race took a massive dump because he ran through a section that was super, super exposed through the heat of the day. And I was moving really slow coming out of Taylor. And thankfully so, because that section ate up a lot of people. Because by the time we got to Crater Mountain, I had picked up Jonah as my pacer, and they were telling me what position I was in and like who was behind me, who was ahead of me. And I was like, oh shit, like I thought we were way worse off after that section, like because it was slow, dude. And he was in that aid station, and I guess he wasn't looking good, some heat issues and whatnot. And thankfully, that's when I actually started running again, feeling good going into the second night. And from there, we picked up a lot of time from the Crater Mountain to, I want to say it was the Grant Lake aid station, almost to June. We ran well that whole night, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we avoided that heat. But yeah, the last time I saw Jameson was from that Green Church to the Taylor Canyon aid station. So we spent a solid 12 hours together, and we connected after the race. And, we're planning on going out to Flagstaff actually in December to do a little training camp. I'm going to go, tag along for a few runs with him while he prepares for Cocodona, because I believe that's what he's doing this year while I do Sedona 125. So yeah, it's a cool dynamic of those races, because you get that extended time with people, and you're talking about some wild shit, man. I mean, you're talking about fucking traumas. And, when I had mentioned, the girlfriend, I was telling him about her and like how I met her and like how stoked I was. And I'm just sitting there like a giddy little child, talking about my new love interest, and, go to talk about kids and and crazy business ventures. I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about that race format is that you really do get to meet people. And stepping back actually to the beginning of the race, I went and said, went and exchanged rocks with Rachel. And
Talk
then
about that.
dude, it was so funny. So we were planning on exchanging rocks after she was on the podcast, and I brought the rock that morning and I said, I ran up to her. I was like, hey, I got your rock. And she's like, oh my God, I got your rock. So one of her crew members, I think it was her boyfriend or husband, or whoever's the guy right there. Like, do you have a rock? So he fucking pulls out this big ass piece of petrified wood. And I'm like, yo, like, all right, I got to go find someone to give this to, I like, cause my crew hadn't shown up yet. I'm like, I have to go find someone to give this to. And she's like, you have to carry it. I'm like, Rachel, I can't fucking carry this. This is like 3 pounds. Like, I'm this. Like, well, I'm going to carry your rock. And I'm like, my rock's this big. I gave her this little piece of amethyst and she did. She carried it the whole race, and she reminded me of it when we were coming in and out of Summit One. She's running out and she's like, I got your rock. And I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I don't have yours. I'm not carrying that fucking boulder, because I told her, I was like, I'm like, I knew you were going to bring a massive rock. And she's like, I'm not fucking around. I'm like, dude, this woman is insane. Such a genuine human. Rachel is. I mean, what you see is what you get with her, which is really cool. She doesn't have that. I don't know. She's not a douchebag. Let's just put it that way.
I have a question for you. How good is Rachel Enterkin?
Dude, every time I saw her, she was running her ass off. I mean, to be able to come into second place just a few hours behind Jimmy, I mean, I think that I honest to God think that if Rachel didn't take as many wrong turns, because look, as good of a runner as Rachel is, she's kind of a dink. Love you, Rachel, but she led us in the wrong direction as we were all together like 3 times. We got lost within the first 7 miles, and she was the ringleader of the whole thing. We got lost that one time, so we go divert up the trail this way. The trail's going this way, so we see all the other runners go, so we have to go down the mountain back to the trail. And then we get up to the summit and she starts taking the wrong way again. And every time I saw her, she was getting lost. So I think that if she had been able to stay on course, she would have probably been closer to Jimmy. And, just with her competitive nature, I think that she really could have pushed him, honest to God, for taking first overall. And I think if you were to run it back, knowing all those things, I think we would have seen a whole lot closer race, which is wild to think over a 200-mile race that, they could be even as close as they were. But if she didn't take as many wrong turns, and I know Jimmy took a few as well, but man, like, Rachel's the real deal. I mean, I'm seriously excited to see what she's able to do here in the future as her career progresses.
It's so interesting to me because, like, I mean, obviously so good, just like super talented, insanely talented, and has had a crazy good year. Like, I just wonder, and this is just out of pure curiosity, like, how does the body hold up after running multiple 200-mile races and 100-mile races throughout the year? Like, how do you recover from that? Like, it's so crazy to me because, like, I don't run crazy mileage, but, like, I wonder, like, how people can do this day in and day out. And, like, I do it at a relatively high level, and I'm just like, what the hell? So it's very interesting to me that, like, how she can recover and do that.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know if it's just genetically gifted or what, but dude, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think she had ran like a 100-miler or like a 50-miler a few weeks before that, and it's just like, yo,
yeah. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And yeah, I can't wait to see who she signs with and, like, how the career progresses. Because, like, I don't know, I think Finn has said it before, and I think many other people in the media space, and I don't often get to comment on, like, the 200-miler stuff or really ultra in general, but, like, the one time I do, I gotta say, like, yeah, like, that's, like, possibly the next Courtney Dauwalter or, something bigger than that, which is pretty cool. So,
oh yeah, I mean, honestly, after this race, I mean, I might get shit for this, but I think that at this point she's kind of taken the torch and she's running with it. I mean, if we see, I think 100-mile may be slightly different. Well, I don't know if we've seen them necessarily head to head in 100, but I mean, Cocodona last year, she beat Courtney. Courtney dropped at Mingus Mountain, and Rachel beat her. So we might be seeing a whole lot more Rachel and a whole lot less Courtney when it comes to the podiums. I mean, and taking nothing away from Courtney, she's amazing and really has paved the way for a lot of these, really amazing women coming out there. Because you have the likes of Tara Dower, who was also out at Mammoth, Rachel beat her handily too. I think Tara dropped at Sawmill, and just and really she blew up. Rachel put the pace on them, and they couldn't keep up, and she fucking held it the whole time, man. It was pretty remarkable.
So crazy. I gotta ask you back to competition and stuff like that because I've run with you before. I know you. You're extremely competitive. I love it. It's amazing. When you guys went out in the front group, what were you thinking? Like in the sense where you were like did it felt pretty comfortable for you, able to run with these guys? Like obviously the pace wasn't too crazy. It was nice and probably I guess runnable for a 200 miler. But like where was your head at in the beginning? Like were you like, oh, I'm gonna break these motherfuckers? Like what did what did you want to do?
Not necessarily break them, but like I knew at the end of the day, like I knew I could run close to the front. I think if I was to do it again, I probably would have slowed down the pace a little bit because I think by the time I got to mile 30, I believe I was about an hour ahead of my schedule, but I still felt good. I felt good physically. My legs, the training went well. For putting together some half-ass training plan between May and September, I think
You were fit. I ran with you. I was like, wow, you were actually extremely fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, I felt good. I mean, even going up to like Summit One, like that first big climb, it didn't feel like I was really pushing too hard. Um, you know, hold on a second. There's an alarm going off in here. 1 minute. My bad. My
Hey,
child
you're
is
good.
going off and it's in the office here. But yeah, no, dude, I felt fit. I felt, again, if it wasn't for the feet, I really think that race would have gone differently, which again is why I feel like, okay, we got to go back and try to do this again. Not necessarily Mammoth, but those longer race formats. And I think Sedona 125 is actually going to be a good test for that, because 125 miles, you're still getting to that 100-mile mark and then still have to run a marathon after that. So I think that'll be a good test to kind of see where we're at with the fitness, see where we're at with, just what we learned from Mammoth, because the nutrition was completely solid. I mean, I was crushing never second gels the entire time and never once had an issue with my stomach, eating plenty of solid food. But going into it, yeah, I don't regret going out as quickly as I did. I just regret not taking care of my feet like I should have because again, I had that extra time. I could have sat down, changed my socks, but I didn't. One thing was, as I said, let the race come to you. And I did kind of mess that up. I did get, I was excited. I was like, fuck, dude, like we're feeling good, like really good. All the little nagging injuries that I had were gone, like my legs were feeling good. I had this nerve issue in my left leg that I'd been dealing with the entire training block and seemingly it went away. And part of me wonders if it was just like a psycho, it was just my brain like being nervous about going into the race. And then once we were there, it was like, okay, yeah, no, we can run with these motherfuckers. And only time will tell. We go back and you have to do it again. I mean, you can't get ninth place and say that, oh, you could have vied for the podium if your feet were working. I mean, you have to put it together and actually go fucking do it. So, I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that, oh, well, if my feet were good, Jimmy Elam had someone to contend with. But
Well, hold on. Let me stop you on that because the only reason that I was going to get into this was like after having conversations with you and then looking at times, looking at numbers, looking at splits, and looking at like just the metrics in general. Like I find this to be really interesting because like, and this is no disrespect to Max because I really like Max as a human, but I don't think there's much separating you. If anything, I think you actually might be a better runner than Max. I just think with these races, it's very interesting because it's a matter of figuring out just the logistical shit, taking care of yourself, getting the right nutrition dialed, and all those things, I think actually make up substantial places between ninth and fourth place or third place.
oh yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, yeah, no disrespect to Max. I mean, he came in and he got third male, ran a good race. But again, I mean, I think as far as fitness goes and just pure running ability, I think that, if I had strategically, again, it's a different race dynamic. If I had listened to my body, changed, dealt with the feet, I think a big component of where my mental, checkout kind of came at about a mile 100 was just because my feet were fucked up. I didn't think I could put another 100 miles on them. Like if they're already this bad, how bad are they going to be later? So yeah, I mean, again, like I fully expect to see Max and all those guys again. Eder Ramirez, who we just recently had on the podcast, great dude, great runner. His family's amazing. I talked to him a little bit after the podcast. It was actually kind of funny because his kids and his wife were like, "Oh my God, there's Teddy," and then again, like, which is a really another funny thing, was having like a dozen or more people come up to me and tell me like, dude, I love your show. And I was like, fuck, really? Okay, cool. Like, be nice. Meeting Max's mom at the start line, meeting Jimmy's dad. Jimmy's dad was actually really funny. Because he came up to me and he's like, hey, do I got to come out there with a bat and protect my kid? And I was like, oh no, 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 because we're making fun of how me and Max were gonna Tanya Harding Jimmy. So it was it
Jesus
was
Christ.
it, it was really fun. Yeah, like dude, like being at the start line and like having all those people come up and be like, oh dude, like love what you do. And then they said meeting Max's mom and like her shit talking me, and then Jimmy's dad shit talking me. I'm like, dude, this is fucking wild. Like it was fun, dude.
I love it. I love it. I want to backtrack to the nights. Hallucinations. Like, did you get to meet the aliens at all? Like, what were the hallucinations like?
No, dude. So I didn't have any hallucinations other than there was one point we were at, I think it was Little Walker Lake. And actually a lot of weird shit happened out there. On the live stream, one of my crew members was extremely exhausted and possibly a little bit high. And they were interviewing him. And he was telling a story of we were running through a section, like coming up to the lake, and we heard like a cat, like meow. And I don't know cats or if bobcats do that. I have no clue, but we heard a meow and we're like, yo, like what the fuck was that? At that point, I didn't give a shit. Like it was almost like, all right, like if we have to fight a mountain lion at this point, that kind of checks out. Like, why not? Um, but we heard this cat meow, and then we're running by the lake and we hear like boulders falling into the lake, and like legit like a giant rock was like splashed into the lake, and then it happened again. And so I was like, oh shit, is that like a person or like Bigfoot? Like I don't know, it could have been. I'm assuming it was a person, but dude, it was pitch black and nobody was out there. It was super bizarre, and I wasn't the only one that heard it. My crew member heard it too, so there was no hallucination there. That being said, as we were crossing a log in that same section, I like walk up to it and the log is like moving like this. And I was like, hey, dude, is that log moving? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right. But other than that, dude, like no visuals or anything like that, like no like crazy hallucinations. It was just that one log just like rippling. It was fucking weird. But yeah, other than that, no crazy hallucination stories, just falling asleep on my feet and yeah, moving logs and meowing cats and boulders falling in lakes. But it was like all in one section. So I don't know, maybe we were both tripping balls. Who knows?
Man, I don't know, dude. Like, I would have been. I don't know. I feel like if I would have, not that I'll ever do a race like this, but if I was to, I think like the goal would be to somehow meet the aliens. With through hallucination.
I was kind of, it's funny, dude, because like in my career, I've worked industrial construction pretty much my whole life. So we're, no stranger to 18-hour, 24-hour shifts at time. And so, and I've never been great with sleep anyway. So like staying up for 36 hours, 48 hours, like it's been done before. So I don't know if it's like your brain just kind of gets used to that shit, but like I didn't have and I know some people hallucinate their ass off, but like I didn't experience that like at all. Um, and I don't know if it's just like being used to sleep deprivation, which, and maybe my brain just is just always functioning on some sort of like mild hallucination. I'm not sure. Um, no, no, dude. It was I was actually kind of looking forward to it too, like, to kind of see what that whole portion of it would be, but like it was never an issue.
I want to shift gears a little bit. So this is not obviously we don't condone illicit drug use on the Steep Stuff podcast. However, I know some of your competitors were using mushrooms. Let's talk about that in the sense where do you think there's like performance improvement from that? Is this the place to do that? Like, what are your thoughts on that 200-mile races?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, to clarify, so I was actually talking to Jimmy on the podcast. We had uh, talked about the idea of him taking mushrooms during the race. After we debriefed afterwards, he told me he's like, no, dude. He's like, I decided against it only because of the appetite suppression that could happen from taking mushrooms. He was like, I didn't want my nutrition to fall off because of it. But I did hear that Jimmy was like at aid stations, like just ripping bong loads, which is fucking hilarious. Uh, but no, like the mushrooms weren't used. I mean, at our crew, so my buddy Jonah, he actually had a pack of micro dose mushrooms, and he was like, hey, we'll use them a second night if shit goes horribly wrong. That ended up turning into day two, when shit went horribly wrong. And there was like, I think it was like 0.5 milligrams, whatever it was. It was like a super low dose. And so we would basically take one every 5 hours. And it seemed to help a little bit with the pain. And again, which is funny though, because with the sleep deprivation and then like taking those consecutively, never had, any hallucination or visuals. I think possibly I think there's a slight dissociation effect with it to where that's where the pain portion kind of comes in. And I think visual acuity is slightly elevated. But I definitely think that it's something that could be explored because we were actually looking at the WADA website, and psilocybin isn't a banned substance.
I was going to ask about that. Okay.
Yeah, and after doing the microdosing, not doing like a hero dose and just like tripping balls, I think that would be its own clusterfuck. But I think there's something to it, man, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody does a little bit of experimenting with it and, mixing that with some other types of mushrooms, like, cordyceps or, what have you. And, getting a supplement that could actually really help in these longer races. I don't know if it would help in like a shorter, like your type of, like short trail, like straight uphill. Just think the race might be too short for that.
Smelling salts, but that's actually USADA WADA banned.
What's funny is like something like that banned, but you're able to go and fucking trip your balls off on mushrooms. And I do think that with the correct dosing, that there probably is a performance enhancing effect from it. I would say, just from our experience, I think that between that and taking Tylenol and ibuprofen, probably way too much, it definitely helped get through some of the rougher sections as far as the pain goes with the feet.
Interesting. I was going to make an autism joke, but I'll stay away from that.
We're pretty happy there. So,
yeah. So, all right. Interesting. I don't know. Thanks for being open about it. I was just so curious because, like, I don't know. I think back to the early days of Ultra, where you have Avery Collins with the tag word running high for his Instagram. And like, he was always big on like talking about like the usage of marijuana, or should I say weed? I don't have to say like proper terminology here, but like he was just a very big proponent of it. And like, I don't know, I almost felt like it like semi altered his career in a sense, because he was always the guy to talk about weed, like with ultra running. And like, he's an extremely talented athlete, but like never got the notoriety he probably deserved because he was so big on it. But like now in this 200-mile phase, like you see a lot of, I don't know, I almost feel like the mushroom stuff, especially now as it becomes more legal in a lot of states, it bears an interesting conversation to have, especially with what you're talking about, like enhancement of visual acuity, maybe dulling pain. Like I'd be interested in seeing more research on it and like people actually using these things in like 200 milers to see like, all right, like, is there an effect here? And like, I got to go back and listen to I listened to your pod with Jimmy, but I can't remember. Did you guys talk about it offline or did you talk about it in the pod?
We talked a little bit of it on the pod. I had got a question from my brother to actually ask Jimmy, was if he was going to eat anything magical. And kind of started putting two to two together during the pod. I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about here.
It's a good audience question
there. No, and but the thing is too, dude, is like, in full disclosure, I've been sober now for almost 4 years, and I've had disagreements with people about the whole mushrooms thing, because like, when I first started running, I would, take edibles like, like weed edibles and go run before I got sober. And that actually helped quite a bit, from the pain tolerance standpoint and being able to, kind of lock in a little bit more, I should say. But for me, like I can't do that. I can't use I can't smoke weed. I can't eat it, anything like that, because it has that addictive quality for me. I'll just find myself the next week going to a fucking dispensary and going and buying a joint and then, smoking again. And then here I am back at square one. But with mushrooms, like, and again, I've had disagreements with other sober people on this, where they're like, oh yeah, no, they're California sober, so they smoke weed, don't drink, do anything else, but they won't take mushrooms. Where I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, for me, it doesn't, I've never taken mushrooms and the next day been like, I want to do that again. It's once every 2 years, maybe. And then with the micro dosing, again, you're not getting high. And I just look at it a little bit differently, just again, because it doesn't have that psychological or physical addiction property for me. Because I'm not a fucking purist when it comes to it, right? Like, I don't look at like sobriety like, oh, I can't do anything, No, it comes down to, I'm not going to take a substance that's going to ruin my fucking life, and mushrooms aren't there for me. You know what I mean? So like some people are going to get pissed off about that, but I could give. I mean, it's again, dude. Like, I don't. I'm not a. Again, I'm not going to go and find. You know, I'm not going to go and take mushrooms every day. That's just not. That's just not something I'm interested in doing, and it's something I don't think you really should do. Quite honestly, I mean, I really do kind of look at it as a. To get a little woo woo and hippie here. I mean, it's a plant medicine, and if you use it the right way, and you could have, it has a lot of benefits. So
Yeah. Well, you know, uh, I was gonna make a meet the aliens joke, but we can save that for another time. I gotta ask you. I gotta get woo woo here. I gotta ask you this. You and I, are good amigos, and we chatted a lot in the lead up to this race. We talked about expectations. We talked about goals. We talked about all these different things. And then it's always a different experience when in the lead up to it, and then you get to it and you actually do the damn thing. How did that, like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, like, did it meet your expectations, or did it exceed them, or was it not as good as you wanted it to be?
yeah, dude. No, I would say definitely exceeded expectations as far as what I was getting into. I went into this thing thinking, again, yeah, I got the same approach that Jimmy took. Was like, all right, this is just two 100 milers. Like, if I could run my first one in between 22 and 24 hours, like, we can kind of mail it in for the second one and run it in 28. um and that's just coming off of just running a 100 miler, running an 80 miler. um you know I went into it thinking that it was going to be a different experience, and then, like I said, it's that race dynamic, it's the strategic portion of it, um, where I don't believe that I did well with, right? Like, I don't think I put enough preparation into that part of it. I didn't talk to enough people who had run 200 milers and get their 2 cents. But I've always been the type of person that's just going to go out and just do something and try it for myself. And the entire time, I think that, if you're not winning a race, if you're not podium, if you're not on the podium, what you take away from that race and then to apply later on is really the important part. And again, for me, I learned a lot during this race, and I banked all of that during the race. I'm like, okay, for next time, remember this. For next time, remember this. Basically, running, sub 24 hour 100, knowing that I was pacing myself for 200 miles, I was like, oh shit, okay, so, like, maybe we could do a 100 miler X fast, right? So that's kind of the, morphs into the next goal, and then, feeds into the next time you go on and take on something like this. But definitely exceeded my expectations. I think that, again, even being an inaugural race, again, Tim and Hillary, ton of kudos. They did a great job. I mean, freaking Hillary was waiting at the finish line for freaking everybody. I mean, I don't know if that woman slept the entire weekend. She may have slept less than any of us. And it was just awesome. Like, I saw Tim at the beginning of the race, and he's like, hey buddy, go get some scalps. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, let's go. And it was just, dude, it was a really, it was, they put on a great show. It was super fun.
It's amazing. As far as things you would change for next time around, like, I mean, I have to be honest with you. Like, I ran with you and thought you were pretty fit. I was very impressed with that. Is there anything you would change in training? Is there anything you would apply into the race? Obviously, we talked about some of the things like the feet, and some of those aspects. But as far as training goes, like, what would you change, or if there anything you would change?
Yeah, I won't harp on the feet anymore because I think that was just a strategic blunder on my part. I think that with the fitness though, the fitness was definitely there. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think I had as much. Do we ever have enough time to prepare for something like this? But I think that I I I, I had to throw on a ton of volume leading into this, and that brought up a whole bunch of other physical ailments. You know, whether it be like IT issues or again the nerve issue that I was dealing with in my foot and my left leg, and then developed shin splints in my left leg. And it was just like fuck, man, just putting in, 60-mile week, 70-mile week, 80-mile week, and then like 120-mile week, 100-mile week, 80-mile week. It was a lot. And I think going into the next one, especially into this off season, is really being able to incorporate the strength training more religiously while you're still putting on that volume, and just increase it ever so slightly, as to avoid injury. Because obviously the strength training is going to have its benefits when it comes to the injury prevention, but also from the muscle fatigue standpoint, right? I mean, I still think that I could have there's some improvement there, from muscular endurance, and you're running 200 miles. Your legs need to be fucking stout. So, there's a lot of single leg training, but at the same time, me and Michelino go back and forth all the time. I think from my past experience with football and doing a lot of power lifting, doing deadlifts, clean and press, things like that. That's a huge component of the training. I mean, and I stand by that. I mean, lifting fucking heavy. Because you could do all the single leg stuff, and that's fantastic. It does help a lot. And I think that's more on the injury prevention side. But when it really comes to building those muscles up and getting them ready just to be beat down for that long, doing the very heavy lifting is super crucial. I mean, just from a bone density standpoint, that's something that I would absolutely integrate a whole lot more going into the next one.
Interesting. mean, I was amazed by your durability, dude. Like, you're a very durable athlete, and like you could take some punishment, which obviously was pretty shown throughout this race and other races. I know Mike. I mean, and I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast yet, but like Michelino's my coach now, and I gotta say, man, like we've made a lot of like little changes and some big changes in the last couple months we've been working together, and I'm astonished at like some of the things that like. I'm like, huh, like that really like worked. Can you talk a little bit about like what you've gotten from him? Like, I know he's fired you a couple times, but like he's got a lot of gems, dude. Like Michelino, I think obviously it's overshadowed because he's such a good athlete, but at the same time, like the dude is an amazing coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, Michelino, like as for as good of an athlete as he is, I think he's 10 times better of a coach. The thing is that Mike's not my coach, but we talk all the time when it comes to, training methodology. And, I'll come at him with some dumbass idea that I have. Like, well, what about, he's like, yeah, dipshit. Like, he's like, that was studied 20 years ago. Like, look at this, and like, it's funny with Mike because he's a very, very smart dude. And like, he knows physiology better than, and anatomy better than a lot of people that are in the space. We were actually talking about I don't know if you know that influencer dipshit, Matt Johnson. He's that little fucking tiny dude in Texas. He's like running.
No.
Let's just put it in. He went and ran Tahoe 200 and ended up DNFing at mile 30 and he looked like a baby deer running in the snow. And this motherfucker's coming out and charging $500 a month for coaching.
What?
Like the dude that knows jack shit about running. It's like, yo, dude, you're just like the rest of us fucking drug addicts who come out and find a sport that we can apply our addictive personalities to. And you're coming out and like you have zero education when it comes to running. You know, you don't have a background in it. Whereas Michelino has been running since he was in freaking in middle school. He went to college and you know and has a degree in kinesiology, and he's charging what, $180 a month or something. I don't actually know, but it's not that much. $500 fucking. But no, Michelino is excellent coach. And like I said, we always go back and forth with different training methods. Again, back to the weight training. We were talking about that this weekend, because he had a little bit of a rough go of it that second half of that 100K, and he was just like, man, he's like, I don't know, he's like, I took enough salt in, where's the cramping coming from, and just kind of basically decided like, well, it's probably just the muscular fatigue. There's, whether that be not enough volume, because he's run like 1,400 miles this year, whereas I've run 1,700. He's probably done a little bit more strength training than I have, but all that adds up. So if you're not doing that high volume and putting that pressure on those legs and getting that stimulus, you need to have that strength training aspect of it. So even though I'm not coached by Michelino anymore, because I just constantly piss him off with the way that I structure my training, or like I'll move my long run and then like, I'll decide to
Oh, you're
run.
way worse than me.
Yeah, no, I'm horrible, but a lot of it's because he's my brother. When I'm coached by somebody else, I tend to follow it a little closer, but I think that I have more leeway with him until I go and check my training schedule for the next week and there's nothing there. And he's just like, dude, fuck you. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. He's like, I'm coaching you because you're my brother. And he's like, you don't listen to what I say. Like, so I get it. But understanding how he puts together a training program has helped me a ton, to where I'm not going to say I don't need a coach. I would probably benefit from one. But if I put together my training plan, I'm able to follow it. And because we have the same sort of thought process when it comes to, how to structure something leading up to a race, um, it, it's a huge benefit to have him in my corner and just to bounce things off of him. I mean, he's, anybody looking for a coach, highly recommend using Michelino. He's incredible.
Yeah, dude, I've gotten yeah, I've gotten in trouble a few times now with deviating a little bit. I like to do my Friday runs a little long. He's like, "Oh, you tacked on an extra 25 minutes to your Friday run." I say, "Huh?" He's like, are you gonna do your full long run on Saturday?" I was like, "Probably not." So yeah, I gotta be better. But it's been a fun journey so far. And dude, like I said, the fitness gains have been crazy just in
Oh
a
yeah,
small
man.
period of time.
Oh, dude, look at Jazz, dude. His girlfriend, she goes to Worlds this year, and I mean, she's had a phenomenal year, and she goes to Worlds and gets freaking fourth place. I mean,
Smashes it, yeah.
he's coaching her. Um, and even like when they first started training, she was kind of questioning some of his methodology, and he was just like, just trust the process. And then you go to Worlds and you get fourth place. I mean, I think that's reason enough to trust the process.
Yeah, no, it works. It definitely works. So what's next, man? How obviously we got a long time between Sedona Canyon's 125 and now. Like, what do you got planned for the winter? Just mileage or any goals?
You know what? Being down in Southern California helps a lot because we don't have a ton of snow. So like the running volume can stay pretty high. We do have occasions where there's, too much snow, or, and in that case, I'll just get on the bike. But usually I take the winter to do a lot more strength training, just sit in the garage and lift heavy, bulk up a little bit. And then, come January, start running again. So I think right now, especially with the fatigue on the legs from this, running the other day, I did like 5.5 miles. And like the next day it felt like I ran a 100K. It's like, all right, like we're going to tone it down a little bit. But right now, the only thing on the schedule is Sedona 125. I'm excited for that one. I'm really looking forward to going out there and seeing how fast we can run it. Already assembled the crew. Um, you know, leading up to that for running though, just going to do some, long adventures in the mountains and, keep the volume high, but, lead into that race and probably really start hammering on the training plan, come February, hit that training block and, yeah, just try to get a little bit faster, do a little bit more speed training than I did for the 200 miler. That's for sure. And yeah, that's kind of the plan. I know my buddy Jonah is actually running, Hurt 100, this January. So we're going to go out to Hawaii and, go crew him, return the favor for him coming out and, helping me, this past race, which I'm super excited for because I was signed up for Hurt last year, but I hurt.
Really?
Yeah, I was supposed to run Hurt, but yeah, hurt my Achilles, so I pulled out, and so I'm excited to go back out there. I've only run that loop once, so it's going to be fun to get out there and just get him the goal that this is going to be his first 100. So I'm fucking pumped, dude. Like as far as like things that I'm excited for, I'm really excited to go out there and crew for him because I think that like this weekend crewing Michelino, I don't know if how much crewing you've done, but it is one of the funnest things that dude, you're stressed out the whole time. I mean, dude, this last 100 that Mike did, um, we went, so he was in first place at the Bear, I think it was the Bear aid station. He comes in first. I was like, oh shit, dude, like this he's running way ahead of schedule. And the next aid station was pretty close. It was like it was like 9K away. So we get in the van, we start driving, and we get to the fire road that we seemingly thought was going to take us to the next aid station, but there's a gate there. And I was like, oh shit, okay, pivot. Like how, and like Alex, his buddy is following us in the car. He's like, what do we do? I was like, I don't know. I'm just driving towards town. And, luckily, my girlfriend Angela was with us. And I was like, hey, go find the runner's manual. Go see what's up with this aid station. So she looks it up really quick. She's like, okay, it's in Snow Summit. So we drive to Snow Summit. And she's like, it says the aid station's at the summit. And it says you can hike up there. And I was like, fuck. So I go pack his bottles in a bag, throw in his fuel, and I just start running my ass straight up to the top. And it's funny because I thought about you and you were talking about that different type of pain when you're running straight uphill. Dude, now I'm panicking because I have his location on my iPhone, so I'm seeing him like traverse across the mountain. So I'm thinking he's gonna beat me there. So I'm just like gassing it, dude, and like there's just like a freaking handful of pennies in my mouth, just like dying. And my legs are still fucked, and I just sprinting up this hill, like, oh my God, like I'm gonna make it. And then I go up to his location, and he's running back down to the parking lot. So it's like, oh, they run down and then they run back up. So I ended up beating him up there by like 20 minutes. Thank freaking God. But like that's the whole thing with like the crewing. It's just go, 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 go. He finally gets up there, load him up, find out what he's going to need for the next aid station, make sure he's eating, give him a pep talk, smack him on the butt, send him on his way, bomb down the mountain, go to the next aid station. So yeah, crewing is its own type of crazy, and it's so much fun to be out there and do that with those guys. So yeah, really looking forward to Hurt and really just kind of getting to go out to Hawaii for a week. So
Hawaii's great, man. I was out there about a year ago this time last year, and yeah, I mean, it's easier for you too because it's a quick flight from LAX. It's like not that bad because you can fly direct from there. Yeah.
No, it's not bad at all. And I'm trying to convince Angela to come with me, but she doesn't like flying. She's like, okay, there's no way I'm flying over the ocean. She's like, send a fucking ferry, and I'm like, no, like just I don't know, just I don't know, take a bong rip, get on the plane, let's go.
You got to fly. What the hell did we fly? We flew, I think it was JetBlue there, and it wasn't that bad. But I think we flew Southwest back. Dude, do not fly Southwest back. Like,
No.
there was no phone charger and no, like, screens on the thing. So, like, I was just, like, watching shit on my phone until it died. And then I was sitting there for, like, 2 hours, bored out of my mind. And I didn't bring a book or anything. It was horrible. So,
I think I'm flying Southwest because I have Southwest points. So
good luck.
yeah.
Godspeed. But yeah, dude, I think we hit it all. Is there anything you think we didn't get to that you want to address?
No, man, I think we're good. No, it was It was fun. Let's put it that way. We'll do it again at some point. And next time we will beat you, Max. I promise. That's going to happen. That's still on the list. Max still needs to get his ass beat.
Let me ask you, Sedona Canyons is what, May? Something like that? May?
Yeah, Sedona's in May. It's same. It's Cocodona weekend. Or it's like the half Coco basically. And I can't even remember where it starts. I think it starts in Sedona and then ends in Flagstaff. I think it ends in the same location that the 250 ends in. But yeah, it's in May.
Dude, I might road trip down there just to cheer you on and have some fun out there.
Oh
Could
yeah,
be
dude. Yeah, come
not
join
too
the crew. It'll be fun.
it's not too far of a drive. So sweet.
Yeah.
Francesco Sunseri, Teddy Tonelli, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy.